Hey, Dog Nation, I'm Brandon Adams. It's time now for Get to Know, presented by the Piedmont Bank, as we get to know Georgia's opponent for this Saturday, Tennessee, and discuss some keys to victory against the Vols. You know, for Georgia, it's obviously a huge game on Saturday because it's the final game that Georgia will play before traveling to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to take on the Crimson Tide next Saturday. But Kirby Smart would say, don't think of this Saturday's game against Tennessee as a tune-up. In fact, Smart has tried to say all week long that in a couple of key areas, he thinks this week's opponent, Tennessee, may be better than last week's opponent, Auburn. In fact, here is Smart on that very topic.
When I start with Tennessee, I say they have a commitment to the run. They're physical on the offensive line. They've got a deep offensive line. They've got big people on the defensive line. They've got experience. They've got big people. They're physical up front. So when you start with those two, they're just ahead right now of where Auburn is. I mean,
one of the people who has seemingly bought into Kirby Smart's message is CBS Sports' Brad Nessler. Brad will call the game on Saturday afternoon, and when he joined Dog Nation Daily on Thursday, that same assessment of Tennessee's lines of scrimmage, well, it sounds like Brad Nessler has kind of noticed the very same thing.
You know, when Jeremy got there, the big thing was we got to get bigger, we got to get stronger, and that's how you kind of build a team in the SEC. If you can have a defensive front and an offensive line that's notable, you know, that's how you're going to win games, no matter how good your skill position players are. So, you know, a year ago, Auburn's defensive front was as good as anybody's in the country, if not as good as some NFL teams, and they're not that anymore. So they got pushed around by Georgia, but they're better. They're better, and they're probably better than Auburn on both sides of the scrimmage.
However, what Brad Nessler also pointed out on Dog Nation Daily, that much the same way Georgia wants to prove something ahead of playing Alabama, Tennessee's got something to prove too. They've had a long winning streak, but really, who have they beaten? Brad Nessler addressed that topic as well.
You look at Tennessee and you think 2-0 and speaking, that's great, but I'm not sure they've beaten anybody of note. If they beat Georgia, then I'm going to say, wow, you know what? Their two lines of scrimmage were really, really good. I don't see them running for 230 yards on the ground against Georgia like they did against Missouri.
When you go back and look at the streak that Brad Nessler references, the 2 games from this season, the 6 games prior to that, you see very much the same thing that he talks about there. Just South Carolina, Missouri here for this season. On the screen, we'll show you what happened last season as well. The teams they beat there, also not a great collection of talent. South Carolina, UAB, Kentucky, Missouri once again, and Vanderbilt. So it's easy to understand why some question the winning streak the Vols have put together, and also easy to set this up as a game on Saturday in which both teams, Georgia on the one side, Tennessee on the other, both feel like they have something to prove. That's Get to Know. It's brought to you by the Piedmont Bank, and Piedmont Bank wants you to get to know your banker and get to know them at the Piedmont Bank and find out why they are here for Georgia small businesses. They've got locations all around the metro Atlanta area, and they want to show you what they understand, that banking is about personal relationships, and that's something that Piedmont Bank is great at. So make sure you check them out. Get to know my friends at the Piedmont Bank. Find them online at piedmont.bank. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy the game here this weekend, and we'll see you back here again next week for another edition of Get to Know, presented by the Piedmont Bank.